Hello. Welcome. We don't know what to do with our hands. I am Dan Cavallari, slow guy in the fast ride. You are?
Kelli Sam,
from
founder, owner of LA Sweat.
LA Sweat. So if you haven't heard of LA Sweat, guess what? You're going to hear about it today. Kelli, before we get going on like super serious questions, let's talk about silly questions.
Okay.
Do you play a musical instrument?
I don't anymore, but I played the French horn in junior high.
Did you?
And I really wanted to play the flute, and the band director was like, "You're gonna play this really ridiculous instrument. That's very hard."
He saw the natural French horn.
He did, and then I realized that I had been faking it all through junior high and band.
Yeah.
And then the kid that was also playing the French horn, he like went to the Philharmonic in Idaho, like made a career of playing the French horn. Yeah. Not a little bit. I realized that I like never actually played.
Yeah.
During concerts, I would just like fake it.
Just like, ha.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't plug your guitar in or something. All right. What was your favorite toy as a child? This is a hard question.
It's a hard question. It's kind of like a weird one. Barbies were my favorite, but it was because I used to cut all their hairs off and then be like, "Mom, I broke it. Can I get a new one?"
Yeah. That's wise. That's a smart ploy. Yeah.
And then I became a hairdresser, so then it was like a thing.
And you saw the Barbie Dream House box. I just
did.
got my daughter a Barbie Dream House. And Kelli, I think, was a little jelly.
I was a little jealous.
Kelli was jelly. What book are you currently reading, or what was the last book you read?
Okay. I am reading a few different books. I am really bad at reading.
Like all
I'm
you have to
a
do
very
is look.
slow reader.
Oh, slow is okay.
So I'm reading a couple. I'm reading a memoir by the comedian Liza Schlesinger. Mm-hmm. She's very funny.
Yes.
It's called Girl Logic.
Yeah.
I really love it. My problem with reading is after like 2 paragraphs, I fall asleep.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, I have the same problem.
That's probably the one I read the most.
Okay. She's funny. I like her.
She's very funny.
What are 3 songs on your indoor trainer or pre-race playlist?
Oh, God. I don't get to choose.
You don't? Why?
The girls get to choose.
Okay.
The
what
team
about?
chooses.
But what about like when you're alone riding on the trainer?
I don't listen to music.
What do? Listen to your breathing?
Oh, I watch movies.
Oh, okay. Well, what movie? What movie was the last one you watched?
On the trainer or just in general?
On the trainer.
I don't even know.
This isn't even the hard part of the interview.
I don't even know. I honestly, it's been a minute since I've been on my trainer, maybe like a month.
Oh, okay. So no movies then.
No.
Yeah. All right. All right. I'll give you a soft pass on this one.
Okay.
If you think of one.
I think of one. I'll let you know.
In the middle of the interview, just interject with like.
I do like to watch or just have on like ridiculous like new sitcoms from Netflix.
Okay.
Because they're just mindless and I don't really have to pay attention, and I don't have to like remember what happened.
Right. What's one non-bike related piece of gear that you have to take with you to every race?
That I have to take with me to every race?
You must have it.
My computer.
Fair enough. You're very work-minded.
Well, like we have to like have really relevant content all the time, so.
Yeah. Slave to the content.
Yes.
I know that feeling.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Speaking of content and speaking of the team.
Yes.
Tell me about LA Sweat. Why did you start it? When did you start it? What was the whole purpose behind you starting this race team?
So I guess, I mean, I've probably told this story a lot of times, but it changes slightly because I remember things differently every time. Yeah. So I started a very small women's team in Southern California called the Rita Women's Team with the bike brand Rita many years ago. Yeah. In 2012?
The olden days,
12. Yes. I'm aging myself right now. Thank you. And that was great. That was like 4 local girls, and we raced up and down California.
Sure.
And then it kind of got to the point where I was hearing about all these like bigger crits, and I was like, this seems like fun. And while it was the Rita Women's Team, we were invited to race the Tour of Ireland twice. Cool. And I was like, how did this happen?
Right.
And I like remember asking them, I was like, well, how did you find us? And they were like, when you type in women's race team on Facebook, you're the first team to show up. And I was like, oh, I'm doing
the importance of SEO.
I'm doing something right. And after like doing those and just kind of realizing the world of women's racing out there, I had a kind of hard look at the local scene. And the reason I had started that team was because I didn't find a team that I really liked or felt welcome to kind of be a part of. And then it was like 4 of us, end of 2014. I was like, I'm going to start my own women's elite team.
Cool.
Had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I had an idea. I had been from the fixed gear world, been a sponsored athlete, raced Red Hook and done all that. And then I was like, I'm just going to do it. And I reached out to my personal, bike sponsors through fixed gear. And I was like, you guys in?
Yeah, right.
And they were in.
Cool.
And we packed up my Jetta wagon and drove across the country multiple times, like 4 of us. We got pulled over. I mean,
naturally
ran out of gas, you name it, it happened. So our first official season was 2015. We had kind of partnered with Manual for Speed, helped with kind of getting the name. We were looking at all the other professional sports. And I was like, I don't want to be named Garmin. Sorry, Garmin. I don't want to be named after a brand. It's going to change all the time. And half the time when I was looking at the World Tour teams, I was like, I don't even know what team is what anymore.
Yeah, right.
So, and I was like, well, the Lakers don't change their name.
Right.
And like the Miami Heat don't change their name. And we had a plethora of other names on the list. And we settled on LA Sweat. Was very hesitant. I think for like the first 3 months, I was like, I don't want to say this out loud. It's like gross. But then that became part of the story. Was like, it's a women's team, and inherently in women's cycling, it's been pink flowery jerseys and women, it was in that era where they were making all those shirts that like, I don't sweat, I glisten. And I was like, can I cuss?
I sweat like crazy.
Can I cuss?
Yeah, please. By all means.
I was like, fuck that. I sweat. Like, I'm working hard. Like, I'm putting in the work. Like, I don't want to glisten just because women for sweating is considered gross. Like, fuck that. I'm over it. So then we chose the name that was going to make people a little uncomfortable. Sure. And now we're 7 seasons. Which is really, really weird.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, any team lasting that long is incredible to begin with. So,
and we're still a one-woman show.
Yeah, this is the one woman.
This is
Tell me, so you are a one-woman show in terms of running the team, but there are other. You're not the only racer.
No, I wouldn't even consider myself a racer anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so do you race on the team or no?
I do participate on the team when needed.
Okay. Tell me about the people who are racing. What are some of your racers? What are they like? And what are some of their, what are their specialties on the bike and what are their specialties off the bike?
So in 2018, at the end of the 2018 season, we had a full roster reset. We had 1 returning rider, which is normal. Riders move teams all the time, depending on kind of what their personal goals are. And I put together this new team. No one had ever met, mind you.
Nice. And
we rolled up to a house in Birmingham, Alabama that had a screwdriver for a lock. And
this is like the real world LA Sweat.
Oh, yeah. And I was like, this is not what I purchased on Airbnb. Yeah. What the heck? And there was no front doorknob. And all of these girls had come from Australia and Canada. And I had just flown in from work in Switzerland. And they're like, I remember when Sarah, who is sort of an ambassador now, she races mountain bike in Canada, but she got to the house in her Uber and she was like, can someone come outside? I don't want to get out of the car.
Sounds like a charming place.
And we've been together ever since. Yeah. So now it's 3 seasons. It's the same roster. And I don't know what happened in that moment. Maybe it was the house. Yeah. But that group of women just like bonded
Sure.
incredibly. Never ridden together.
Yeah.
The next day we had our first race.
Nice.
We won. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, it looked like a team that had raced together for 5 years.
Sure.
It just clicked, and it's been great. And we have a variety of women. So Sam Schneider, who is, if you don't know who Sam is, you don't know American bike racing.
Yeah.
It's fine if you don't. You can Google it.
Most people don't.
And then it was a lot of girls who had maybe raced like one season at the elite level. Emily, who's in Canada, she's incredible. She's got a motor like nobody's business. She can sprint and also be in the break.
Sure.
Like she's just a really all-around good rider. Loves tea. She's not a coffee drinker, which is like we give her a hard time because cyclists love coffee.
Right.
Then we have Emma, who's Australian, and she is,
That's like her superpower. She's Australian.
I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
So when she's not racing bikes, she's racing sailboats,
Oh, cool.
and like grew up on a sailboat. Like
Whoa.
didn't go to school till she was like 16.
Whoa.
She was homeschooled, literally on a sailboat, and like had pirates and stuff like come on her boat.
Whoa.
Yeah, like she's got a really cool life story.
I've never been taken over by pirates.
She definitely has.
That's awesome.
Then Danny Mooreshead, who is in Santa Cruz area, and she used to work in the bike industry. Now she works for the Eczema Awareness Foundation.
Cool.
So the one thing that like is really cool with our team is they're all professionals off the bike.
Sure.
So actually Sam got a real estate license and she's like crushing it in the Midwest now.
Nice.
Katie, who is new, she's a speech pathologist for kids.
Cool.
Monica, who's also new, she's in Austin. She makes maps.
Whoa.
She's a GI analyst.
This sounds like a team I want to be.
Yeah, she's super cool. Everyone is like amazing. Ashley just took COVID. She was a human performance specialist, and like now she's going for her doctorate. Who else? Daphne is a amazing graphic designer and works for a bunch of different brands and companies. And yeah, I mean, they're all doing like such great things on and off the bike.
Yeah.
And they amaze me because I'm like, I don't even know how you guys like
Right.
have time to train.
I found my keys this morning.
Yeah. I answered a lot of emails.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a keyboard warrior.
Yes.
You mentioned COVID, and it sucks to have to talk about COVID still, but we're still in the thick of it. We're still in the heart of it.
We're vaccinated.
We're
by the way.
vaccinated, super vaccinated.
Yep.
But you guys had to deal with a year off, just like everybody else did. What did you do during this COVID year to kind of stay motivated, stay relevant, stay basically ready to race when racing came back?
So we actually didn't even get to have a team camp last year.
Yeah.
So we got sent into lockdown like 3 weeks before we had team camp scheduled. And we took some time to ourselves for sure. We definitely like took a little bit of a break and kind of really sat down as a team and we're like, okay, what can we do to keep motivated? Really we just immediately started looking towards 2021.
Sure.
Not only into racing, but also like how can we support our sponsors so that in 2021 we have that continued support. Like that was a big concern for me specifically. So we did a bunch of Zwift rides and we did them on our own. They weren't scheduled through Zwift. They were meetups. We had Discord channels. People could call in. We were doing contests, raising money for different, youth organizations and just really trying to stay as engaged as possible. And I think it really served us well because the feedback that we got from our sponsors was you guys did the most without even asking.
Yeah. And that's huge. That's huge for any team to sort of figure out a creative way to stay relevant at a time that, everybody was struggling with this. Everybody.
We didn't even have like one team photo.
Right.
We had the kit that never happened.
Right. Yeah, it was a nice looking kit though.
I know, it was good.
Well, okay, so that brings up another question too, because I think a lot of people during COVID use the bike as an escape, as a mental sort of honing, like I can stay sane by staying on the bike. What's your relationship like with bikes in general, bike riding? Because, a lot of people say it's their escape. Is that the case for you, or is it something different for you?
It's definitely something different for me. You wouldn't know this, but I have really bad hip dysplasia, and I've had multiple surgeries already to this point, and I'm actually scheduled for 3 more.
Yes.
And the bike can be not a fun time for me.
Is it like physically painful?
It's physically painful. Like, it's painful to walk, it's painful to sleep, it's painful to tie my shoes. That's where I'm at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So riding is like a very social thing for me now.
Sure.
Which is weird in the time of COVID, because it's like I get 2 people to ride with.
Right.
But it's come in waves, and I think as an athlete, for a long time, the bike was like just my job.
Yeah.
Like, even before the team, right? Like, I was training for Red Hook, and I was like doing all these things, and I had all these obligations to be a certain level of fitness.
Right.
At the time, I mean, I've been dealing with these injuries since the beginning of my career. So I've never even had a season where I've been like able to see my full potential. Ever. Which is really discouraging. Like, so when you get on the bike and you're like, okay, I'm feeling good, and then your body just doesn't allow you to do what you can do, you're like, I want to chuck this thing off the side of the mountain.
Block your ears. Block your ears.
Okay. You're beautiful. I love you. So it definitely comes in waves. I think that, I find different ways to stay connected, and a lot of that is through the team and supporting my girls in their accomplishments. Because I do love riding my bike.
Sure.
At the end of it, I just want to be able to do it not in pain.
Yeah, right. That's a big motivating factor to take a break from the bike, for sure.
Yeah.
And I've been in that same boat where it's just the idea of just looking at the bike, you're like, oh, that's going to hurt my back for the next week.
That's going to hurt. And also when you're riding with a bunch of bike racers, like I always do, you're like, oh, I'm just going to slow everybody down.
Right.
Like, I physically cannot ride at their level right now.
Right. And I never could. So.
Like, I have to like keep reminding myself right now.
Yeah.
September can't come soon enough.
Yeah. When you perform at a high level, it's hard to drop back down.
Yeah.
And that can be mentally
It's definitely
jarring.
humbling.
Yeah.
And there were definitely times where I didn't pick up my bike for 3-4 months.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to a lot of conversations I've had with a lot of pro riders who, after they retire, they say, no, I didn't want to ride bikes for...
Yeah, you have to refine the fun in it.
Yeah. And Pete Stetton is a good example of that. Like, he found gravel, and bikes were fun for him again. But I think that mental reset is just so huge.
Yeah, that definitely keeps me motivated in riding. Is like, I do ride gravel. I do other things on the bike than just road and training and racing.
Right. And I also think, personally anyway, for me, I've definitely taken vacations from the bike where I was like, I just need to reset. I kind of have recently been going through one, in fact.
Yes.
But, there's also just riding your bike to the store, you know, and that seems to me like to be a different thing entirely. It's like a repurposing of bike riding that's a little mentally refreshing.
Yeah, for sure.
There's not as much pressure to perform when you're riding a commuter bike.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know, you roll up on this and they're like, oh, she must be fast.
Yeah.
Not.
I was like, whenever I roll up on an expensive bike, and I've ridden a lot of expensive bikes, people are like, oh, that guy must be fast. And I'm like, focus on this area right here. Not fast. If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about this lovely bike industry of ours, what would it be?
I don't even know where to start with that one.
All right.
Outside of having the team, I've worked in the industry for 10 years, almost.
I'll start a fire. We can take our time with this one. Yeah. Pour some drinks.
Yeah, we definitely need some drinks for this one. I think, honestly, a lot of people are saying, like, oh, like, small change. I think it really needs to happen from the top down.
Yeah.
There needs to be more women in leadership, roles. There needs to be a lot of things that happen. I think that, the industry as a whole has really just continued to just stay in this comfort of this boys club. And especially here in the US, like that just doesn't work anymore.
Not at all.
You know, like it doesn't.
Yeah.
Not only are, you know, and here comes like my marketing brain, but not only are more women riding and different people are riding bikes, those women are also controlling the household incomes.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
and like
Right.
brands and companies need to really think about that when they're, you know, deciding who they want to talk to.
Right. Right.
You know, like what stories they want to tell. Like
Sure.
I race bikes. I don't want to hear about more racing bikes.
Right. Right.
Like I want to be motivated by other people that aren't in my same circle.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is a struggle with a lot of brands, you know, trying to address, oh man, we spent the last 20 years catering to old white guys.
Yep.
How do we change that? And I think at this point, the transition seems to be happening, but we're in these like initial stages where
It's still the old white guys making those decisions.
Exactly. And so it feels pandering, it feels artificial.
Yeah.
But do you feel like that now because we're in that transition phase, I mean, do you have hope that there will be?
I do have hope. I think, you know, there are, as much as people in the bike industry love to complain about the bike industry.
We're real good at it.
We really do. There are really great people who,
Agree, yeah.
you know, want to see that change and like want to be part of that. And like, you know, I'll do whatever I can with the, you know, connections and things that I've made in my career to push that to happen. It might get me in trouble sometimes.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about, but that doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
You know, like at the end of the day, I want to do something that's meaningful because bikes are meaningful to a lot of people. And it could mean, you know, a way to get to work.
Yeah.
It could mean a way into a sport that you didn't know about. It could, you know, it's just like, I didn't find bikes until I was 25, 26, definitely aging myself because I just said I've been in the industry for 10 years. Okay.
Now you know.
Now you know. If you can do math.
Yeah. I can't do math.
So, like, bikes changed my life.
Yeah.
I would have never had the life that I have now if it weren't for bikes and bike racing. And if I can be part of that for even just one other person, then it's all worth the, you know, the headache. And I think, honestly, I would encourage more women to seek out careers in the cycling industry, but also not. We're inherently taught that, like, if you speak up, you're going to lose your job.
Right.
And that might happen. That has happened to me.
Yeah.
But if it means that the woman after me
Sure.
doesn't get treated the way that I was treated,
Could be worth the risk.
it's totally worth the risk.
Yeah.
Like, I'll find another job. I don't really care.
Yeah. I think that's a bold move, and I think it's a worthwhile move, and I wish more people would.
Yeah, I mean,
it.
you just have to, at the end of the day, it's just bikes.
Yeah.
And people's mental health and stability and, you know, just like support as human beings is way more important.
I totally agree, and that's a good place to wrap it up here. And thank you for coming to my weird garage. I know it's. Have you ever done an
about our junior team?
Oh, back up, everybody. We gotta talk about the junior team.
Let's talk about.
I didn't even know you had a junior team. Wait a minute. So, all right.
Let's talk about initiatives for 2021 for LA Sweat.
So what she just said, we're going to talk about now.
So coming out of 2020 and being in COVID, we did a lot as a team to, you know, sit down and really question, like, what can we do to help grow this sport in a meaningful way?
Yeah.
And in 2020, we did a climbing challenge in our own team and, you know, donated just under $2,500 to an organization in Chicago.
I'm sure we all need to know who won, first of all.
It wasn't about who won. It was about accumulated elevation as a team.
It doesn't sound like a race.
It wasn't a race. It wasn't a race. It was just like, hey, everyone record your elevation for the next month. And, you know, we'll commit to donating, you know, $1 per foot. Yeah.
Just for fun. It's fun we've heard of before, right?
Yeah.
Fun.
don't climb. Crit racers don't climb. No. So we ended up finding an organization in Chicago called Blackstone Bikes. We don't need to go into too much detail about them.
Okay. You can Google them.
You can. But they, for, I think it's like 25 years, they've been a youth cycling program in the south side of Chicago. And after we donated the money, I didn't want it to just be like, here's a check, thanks.
Sure.
See you later.
Yeah.
You know, I reached out and I said, you know, how can we really help you guys in being mentors, especially for the young girls in your program?
Yeah.
And then that turned into the LA Sweat Junior team.
Cool.
Yeah, so we have 3 girls from south side of Chicago that just last weekend I went to Chicago and took them their beautiful S-Works bikes. They got this same bike and all their equipment and, you know, started doing clinics and Ashley's coaching them. And, you know, I think I really want to be cool with them because they're like 13 to 15 years old. Like,
hello, fellow youths.
Yes. So it's not just like, okay, here's a bike and like, we're going to take you to races. Like these girls have never raced.
Sure.
You know, they were really hopeful to have raced their first cross season. But because of COVID, that didn't happen.
Right.
So we just took them on.
Nice.
And as a whole team, like I text with them like every day, or at least I try to. They don't always respond because they're not cool.
Because they're teens.
Yeah, they are definitely teens.
Youths.
But it's just really cool to see their excitement about bikes and racing bikes. And, you know, so we'll be taking them to Toad and to Intelligentsia and, you know, giving them whatever support they need on and off the bike.
Nice.
We also added 3 new riders. We made a point, we didn't have any open spots. I asked our sponsors if we could expand our roster, and we only open spots for women of color. And that's been fantastic.
Nice.
I mean, it doesn't really... It was pretty interesting to hear through the interviews of all the riders that he did of, you know, just how a lot of them didn't feel like they could apply for elite teams or that they thought they would be ignored. So that was really, really eye-opening for me, and I really had to take a good look at the team as a whole and how we were presenting ourselves. And now we have Monica, Katie, and Avery Howes.
Cool.
And they're amazing, and they just slid right in and fit completely. And now, you know, now it's a team of 13.
Whoa.
That includes our juniors. Yeah. You know, we've gone through different numbers of riders. I think in 2020 we were, you know, operating on a bare minimum sort of number. And then this year, you know, with 10 elite riders and 3 junior riders, it's really cool. And to see how involved all of the women are in developing these juniors and just growing the sport as a whole. You know, our number one rule literally in the contract is be nice. Like you have to be nice. You have to be a positive influence.
It's interesting too, because I feel like there's so few opportunities in our culture to have that intermingling of, you know, younger and older people in a positive way that's not school.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And so to have some sort of outlet where they can have mentorship without it feeling like
a parent.
Exactly.
Yeah, they definitely are like, hey. So I'm like, yeah, you can come to me.
Yeah.
I want to be cool too.
Yeah.
I think that's like my midlife crisis coming out. Like, I just want to be cool with like a 15-year-old.
15, yeah. I mean, who doesn't, right?
I mean, they're cool. I don't know if you've talked to a 15-year-old.
I didn't even talk to 15-year-olds when I was a 15-year-old.
Yeah. They are so beyond what I was at 15. Like the things that they care about and know about and are just involved in is incredible.